Hello and welcome back to the International Wealth Builders Association.com radio show and podcast. I'm Patrick Hunter, your host today. I have Megalithic.us, which leads you to my coaching company, and I have Realty Mavericks.com, which is my real estate and investing information. You can get a hold of me at either one of those. But today I'm going to continue and talking about the deal elements and creative financing. I was talking about some of the deals that I've done. Well, last year I did a couple of very creative deals that saved the deal. I had a seller that had some land and a property, and they thought it was worth a ton of money. And then when they actually did I had a cash buyer who was coming in to buy the property, and when it got appraised, they did an appraisal. It came in $145,000 below what the value that she was offering it at. So I got very creative in my negotiating skills, and I talked to the buyer and I said, you know what, you really love this property, you really want this property. How about if I could get the seller to carry back the half of the financing? So he said he would agree to that because he really loved the property. He saw the future of it. He was actually thinking of making it into an Airbnb himself, which a lot of people are buying houses for Airbnb, but you got to be careful out there. The Airbnb investment world is great. You can buy a house and you can rent it out daily. However, a lot of communities have gotten very wise to this, and they don't want wild partying people in for a day or two in their neighborhood. And it got crazy in some places where they had maybe 4 or 5 of these investment Airbnbs on one street. And so the cities came up with ways to implement restrictions on that, and they said no more short-term rentals. So check with your city, check with where you're at or where you're thinking of buying something. If you're thinking about doing an Airbnb, it is a very profitable one to do. You can rent out rooms in the Airbnb. If you have a second guest house in the Airbnb, you can rent that out. Very profitable way to invest, and I can, if you come to one of our meetings, we'll be doing talking about Airbnb as well. It's a very lucrative way to invest. You just got to be careful because a lot of cities did change the rules. Now you can only have somebody stay for 30 days or longer. So check your community on that. Every city's different. They have different ways of doing things. And back to creative financing. Well, creative financing is anything that is non-conventional lending to buy the house. So if you have no credit, if you have bad credit, if you have a good job and can make payments, but you don't have a down payment, can you get into a house? Yes, you can. And that's the beauty of this market here, is that it's changing so fast that sellers are going to be more flexible in the way that they want to sell their house. And I have investors who actually want to use their 401k money and do self-directed IRAs, which I have a company that can convert that for you as well, for a friend of mine that does that, so people can actually invest their money how and where they want. And that's another way that people can do. I have a program that I am putting together for those people in classes for people who want to buy and people who want to sell, have a meeting of the minds. You know, you can do equity share, you can buy part of a house, you can buy all of the house. It really is great to know all these things that are coming back. I used to use them in the 80s and the 90s, and then as properties change, restrictions, we had the market crashes. We had the 2000.com crash, and we had the 2006 real estate crash, and that kind of created the CFPB, which I have other acronym for that, but it's a consumer protection financing thing that they do for the government to put a bunch of restrictions on the loans and all the things that can happen out there. But you can get creative in the way you buy, as long as everybody agrees and knows what's happening. That's the beauty of financing. Like I said earlier, if you do have conventional or government financing, some government loans after a certain amount of seasoning will be assumable. What does assumable mean? Well, that means if the homeowners own the house for typically 2 years or more and it has seasoning, someone with qualifications can come in and take over that loan and buy the house. So there's many, many different ways that you can buy a house. Lease option, purchase agreement. you could come in many ways. A lot of people need to fix their credit. So a lease option or a purchase option is a great way to go to get into a house, set the price in advance so you're not going to be paying whatever the price goes up to, which right now I'm going to get into the market and what's happening. There is a drastic change. Interest rates have flattened out and kind of bounced up and down for the last month, which makes it kind of re-energize some of the buyers, but not all the buyers. The buyer demand is down. The thing that is really changing is the builders. The builders are cutting back on their single-family housing starts, and they're looking more towards multiple unit starts, apartment buildings and things like that. And the reason they're doing that is because they know they can only sell one house at a time, and it's affected drastically by the interest rates. Whereas you have a long-term rental property of 500 units, 200 units, whatever, it's not going to be affected by that. It's a project, and it's going to be affected by the return, which means the rents. So where do I see rents going? I see rents staying high. I do not see rents changing at all for the near future. In California, we're still, I had one of my clients called me up and he said, hey, I got to get out from under this rental. They want to bump it another $400, and they just bumped it 6 months ago. You got to check with your local state, wherever you're at, as far as the amount that people can rent hike. That's something you want to learn. But it's so much better to own than it is to rent, because if you own, you get tax write-offs, okay? Your rent will never go up. So that's why you need to get into ownership. And the other reason I think that we need to get into ownership is, here's a report that I saw the other day from one of the biggest holders of real estate holdings in the country. This company is called Blackstone. Blackstone owns a lot, and what they did is they sold a lot of their assets and started another fund. What does that tell me that they're doing? Their fund that it went up 48% over their previous fund the last time. That means that this Wall Street company is putting together funds so that they can purchase again. Did you know that right now about 22% of all homes in the country are owned by these Wall Street companies? Yeah, they're the ones that bought it all up last time from the banks and turned them all into rentals. When the last market turned down and they came in and they had the TARP money, all that money from the previous problem, they didn't have to get rid of assets like banks are supposed to do. They're supposed to get rid of their assets and only have so much bad debt. They didn't do that this time because they had government TARP money, $800 billion for some of these banks. So they did not have to liquidate those bad loans, those bad homes, and they were converted over to derivative and pretty much crashed the country financially. Well, they sat on those homes, and then companies that were hedge funds with all their money came back in and went to the banks directly and said, we'll buy those homes 10,000 at a time. And they bought a lot of houses and turned them into rentals. The builders stopped building. The hedge funds bought all the houses and turned them into rentals. Therefore, it took 10 years for the builders to start building again. The builders are building like mad, but they're pulling their housing start permits and deals permits. So that tells me that the market's going to change. The builders are wise again this time. They're slowing things down. Buyer demand on the new houses has slowed down dramatically. And just so you know, the price drops of all existing properties that are on the market nationwide is roughly 33%. 33% of all homes that are on the market have dropped their price. That's pretty incredible. I know everybody was getting crazy and just making up prices and putting it on the house, and people were coming in and fighting over it and putting an offer after offer after offer. I did one where I had, just 6 months ago, I did one where I had almost 30 offers on the property. 30 offers on the property, and that has slowed down. And this is a report from Realtor.com dated July 21st. And this is for the 2 weeks, and that's what I like about some of these, Redfin and Realtor.com, because they update it on a much more micro, quick system. They don't go back you'll get data that's only a couple weeks old as opposed to a month over month or year over year. Okay, so it's really important to see what's going on. But as far as they said, that there's a housing inventory is up 29%. So you got housing inventory up 29%. You got listing inventory where price drops are 33% of all homes on the market have dropped price. So single family builders are doing that. Zillow said that they downgraded their expectations and their forecast that sales will be down. They said that they're going to see a decrease in sales for this year of 10.8%. They also said that the forecast of appreciation for properties for the next 12 months is only going to be about 7.8%. And again, this is actually locally. You got to check your local market. You got to check out what's going on in your neighborhood. This is regional. So do your homework based on where you're at. But if you want to learn more about all this stuff, we have resources. We have all kinds of things at International Wealth Builders Association.com meetings. So go on International Wealth Builders Association.com and become a member. And you can get a hold of me at realtymavericks.com or my coaching company at Megalithic US. Megalithic.us if you want to get a hold of me and have me speak at any one of your meetings or groups. I'd be happy to do that. But come join us at a meeting. And another thing I need to mention is on the 27th in Temecula, we're having our ribbon cutting and meeting in Temecula. So come to the Southwest Riverside Association of Realtors in Temecula on the 27th at 3 o'clock for our ribbon cutting, and stay for the meeting afterward. We're going to have refreshments and a little bit of food. Again, this is Patrick Hunter. I'm your host for the International Wealth Builders Association.com, and we'll be right back, and I want you to call in at 888-909-1050. That's 888-909-1050.